What's up, everybody? We are back with another edition of the Ad Podcast, and today we have a really exciting Chief Marketing Officer. Bryan Terzi is currently the CMO of Autocamp. If you guys haven't heard of Autocamp, it's basically the most high-end glamping that you will ever see. They've got properties in Joshua Tree, Poconos. Bryan can tell us about some of the other properties and some of their flagships, but if you want to do glamping on steroids at the highest level, you got to check out Autocamp. Bryan has a long history of being a marketer in the high-end hospitality and luxury space. So I'm super excited to dive in and hear a little bit about his expertise, his background, and more importantly, what he's doing at Autocamp today. So with that being said, Bryan, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Well, hey, I know I gave a little bit of cliff notes there, but would love to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Would you mind walking us through your resume, some of the salient points or some of the highlights as you kind of climb the ladder and are now Chief Marketing Officer over at Autocamp?
Sure, yeah, no problem. So I actually started my hospitality career right out of college. So I grew up in San Diego. Moved to New York to join Starwood Hotels in the field marketing division. So I was really responsible for all the websites, digital marketing for the design and luxury properties on the East Coast. And that was really where I got my start for kind of the larger, bigger hotel brands working with Starwood. And I feel like such a good foundation to get your start in one of those organizations, especially Starwood back in the day. Just because the people that I was working with were really inspirational, but they also had process and exciting brands. And we're doing something really special in the luxury lifestyle space.
Were you there when Keith Ferrazzi was Chief Marketing Officer?
No. It was Dave Marr and then Carlos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my time. I love living in New York and kind of having that experience. After a few years doing that, I grew into more of a brand role. So I lean more onto like kind of the brand, event marketing, influencer marketing, activation side. And so my career path led me to oversee W Hotels for North America for a little while. So I was, again, based in the city, based in New York, living in Manhattan, doing the commute to Stamford, Connecticut, yet traveling all over the country, opening new W Hotel properties. And then really aligning budget to focus on the key brand pillars for that brand. So whether it was fashion shows, design shows, we did a DJ Burn Lab in Ibiza. Like there was a lot of really fun things that we were doing, and the budgets were quite high to be able to do those things. After some time, had a great run at Starwood, had a lot of fun at W, but I just quite frankly missed the West Coast, and so. At that time, SBE, based in Beverly Hills at the time, underneath Sam Nazarian, was really coming up in kind of the nightlife hotel space with SLS, Katsuya, a bunch of nightclubs. Hyde was kind of the premium nightclub brand at the time. So joined SBE, oversaw all the marketing for the restaurant organization. So there was the Bazaar by Jose Andres, Umami Burger, Katsuya, which is our sushi restaurant concept, and Clio, our Mediterranean concept. So again, had a lot of fun, got to work with some pretty incredible chefs. Also understood there where, looking through marketing at the eyes of an operator or through the eyes of an operator was incredibly important, because no matter how great your marketing strategy is, if you don't have the operations team really championing your promotions or campaigns or understanding what you're trying to put out into the market, it kind of falls flat. So had a great run there. I was really overseeing a lot of the brand expansion as well. So whether it was bringing Katsuya to the Middle East or bringing Clio to the Bahamas at Baha Mar, I learned a lot about kind of brand evolution and how you can bring different concepts into different markets and stay true to the brand, but also kind of flex a little bit to kind of speak to that, whether it's stay pattern or dining behavior of that local guest. Moved to Miami with SBE. I opened up SLS South Beach, which is a big one, and just kind of did a bunch of things with them, a bunch of nightclubs, a bunch of restaurants within the South Florida region. And I missed more of the city life. So Sidel Group called, and at the time, Sidel Group had the Nomad in New York City, and the Line Hotel in Los Angeles. So went back to New York, worked at Sidel Group for 4 years, overseeing the marketing for all their hotels and restaurants as well. Was really focused on 4 brands. That was Nomad, The Line, Freehand, and the Saguaro hotels in the desert. Had an amazing, incredible time at Sidel Group, a really special group of people under Andrew Zobler, who was truly a visionary in the hospitality space, and learned a lot from him, and COO at the time, Blake Danner as well, who just really taught me how invigorating a sales team and really, having a positive outlook and a positive attitude on the day-to-day sales and marketing component of the business was really important. From there, went back to LA, helped open the Thompson Hotel in Hollywood, a bunch of restaurant concepts in Hollywood as well. And then Sage Hospitality after that, where I grew a marketing team from 1 person, which is myself, to 7 people overseeing all different aspects from CRM, public relations, integrated marketing, digital, social. Really built an incredible team that I was really proud of. And then Autocamp essentially recruited me to join the organization. And admittedly, I hadn't heard that much about the brand or about the company profile. Had some initial talks with them and was excited about it because it was something different that I hadn't done before, but also something super exciting in the hospitality space, which I know that we'll get to later on in the interview, I'm sure. But all it took was 1 visit. I went to Autocamp Joshua Tree and was incredibly impressed. I think it really takes going to one of the locations to really understand how special they are. From driving up and seeing this spaceship type design clubhouse in the middle of the desert, kind of in the middle of nowhere with this incredible backdrop of the saguaros, to checking in. And there was literally a road runner running through the clubhouse. I was getting my room key. And I'm like, this is, so many hospitality brands that I've worked with are really excited about or are chasing that experience. Like, what experience are they offering the guests? And this was plug and play. They didn't have to do anything. And the experience alone just from check-in was pretty noteworthy. And I was taking pictures and calling friends. I'm like, you guys, you're going to love this place. This is pretty special. And then checked into the Airstream. And I actually, I had been in an Airstream when I was much younger and really had associated it with a different type of camping, but got my regular room key, clicked into the Airstream just like you would with a normal hotel room, and saw that it's full-size shower with luxury amenity products, full bathroom, full queen size bed, super comfortable, nice sheets, like the actual stay experience matched of the arrival experience. And that's when I knew that it was truly something special and something that I could really get behind. That brings us to today.
I love it. So for those who are not familiar with Autocamp, will you maybe give the viewers a little bit of an idea, how many locations, where you guys are, and really just paint the picture a little bit about the offering. So it's essentially high-end glamping. It's communal kind of center within the property, but then Airstreams around that kind of centralized guest experience with restaurants and hospitality and spa, and really culturing to the luxury traveler that also likes that association with outdoors and kind of these amazing. I mean, you literally built the Joshua Tree one inside of a national park. So I don't want to steal too much of your thunder, but love for the audience to hear a little bit about the offering.
Yeah, no, of course. So we currently have 8 locations. So most of them are very close to national parks. To your point, Yosemite, our location is just outside the park. Joshua Tree is, 5 minutes outside the park. Catskills up in New York is a really beautiful destination, only 2 hours outside of Manhattan. Cape Cod, right outside of Boston, just an hour and a half drive from the Boston airport with ocean views. The development team really is thoughtful about where these locations are, not only bringing in kind of an adventure aspect to the brand, but also just destinations that people are excited to go to, but also can learn from. So Autocamp as a whole, it's not just Airstreams. We also have a tent product and cabins as well. So 3 different room types essentially on property to really cater to different types of travelers. I mean, if you truly want to be an adventurer, the tent product, and if you're a little bit more cost conscious, the tents are probably more in line with your type of stay. If you do want to have more of a glamping experience with, air conditioning and full bathrooms, then obviously the Airstreams are the way to go. And if you want a little bit more comfort, then the cabins, or if you're traveling with a family, we have cabins with bunk beds of them that can accommodate, up to 4 people. So it's really exciting because I think when people step on the properties, they're wowed immediately, not only by the topography of the landscape, but also just how cool and how thoughtful things are. I mean, you walk into these clubhouses and they're not just, a check-in stand. Like, they have full general stores with elevated ice cream. They have Jenny's frozen yogurt. I mean, we have s'mores kits that have like delicious chocolate, everything that you would need to make like a one-stop shop s'mores. We have merchandise that really speak to the local aesthetic as well. So if you want to, if it gets cold at night, you want a sweatshirt and you're in Sequoia, and we have these like really cool retail component to the brand as well. And then every location has not only an indoor fireplace, but also an outdoor campfire, which is really the communal center of the property. We like to say that anyone is welcome around the campfire. So I think that also it's really special to go to the properties and see whether it's a Gen Z couple just going for a little getaway outside of a city, or a baby boomer that's maybe traveling solo and has always wanted to go to Yosemite. It's, part of their bucket list. The conversations around the campfire, I think, are what's most special about the brand. And just to kind of overhear how people share about their day, and no matter where they are in life or no matter how much money they make, like, the campfire is really this kind of level set experience where people share about the hike they took or what they saw, or, the bald eagle that was flying over them at any point in time. It's really special. So we're excited about the locations that we have currently. We're set to open Sequoia, as well as Sequoia in California, as well as Asheville, North Carolina.
Cool. Okay.
It's a big, it's really buzzy right now, Asheville, with a lot of press and media. Hospitality brands are really focusing on Asheville just due to all the local offerings. And we have a few more in the pipeline that I'm not necessarily able to talk about, but some exciting stuff for 2025.
That's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit, because you mentioned a few brand partnerships. I also found you through a post that the chief marketing officer of Marriott put out, because you guys are also partnered with Marriott. So
with Hilton, actually. Hilton.
Oh, excuse me, Hilton.
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks for the correction. Yeah, that would be a bad faux pas. So I found you originally through the Hilton partnership, and then you also mentioned Airstream and some tent brands. How have brand partnerships been important to your growth strategy as an emerging luxury brand?
Very. So we have strategic partnerships that are really focused on hospitality distribution. So that would be the Hilton component. So just taking a look at admittedly, we were, I would say, courted by a lot of the larger global brands out there. And we really thought that Hilton really spoke to, just the authenticity of hospitality, and also extremely strategic in terms of what they're providing their Hilton Honors guests. So Hilton has been a great partner thus far. We soft launched with our Cape Cod property a few months ago. Full integration is currently happening and underway, which means that you'll be able to book any of our Autocamp properties on Hilton.com and redeem points if you're an Hilton Honors member. So that was just another strategic partnership that really benefited both brands. When it comes to Airstream, I mean, there's nothing more Americana than the Airstream brand and what they've been able to do, and also just the perception of Airstream and how sturdy and how the longevity behind that brand has really been something that we've been able to partner with, whether it's going to trade shows or conferences. Anytime we bring an Airstream anywhere, it gets so much attention from people. And then also, once people are able to see what we've done to the interior of the Airstream, completely, retrofitted, modernized it, like I said prior, with full showers, like beautiful tile work, full toilets. Like, it's not what you would think a camping Airstream once was. So I think the partnership.
Is it are they vintage restorations, or are they the new models?
The new models. Well, we have a little bit of both, I will say.
Okay.
Autocamp's been around for just over 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So I think some of the vintage restorations you'll find at some of our original property at Russian River. But some of the newer models will be used in some of the future locations that we have. So it's a little bit of a mix. In terms of other partners that we're working with, I mean, we have had and collaborated with many tech brands. So from the Metas of the world to Instagram to Apple, we've had massive corporate event partnerships that we've been able to do just because our product is so special, but it also lives up to the expectation that type of guest, that corporate employee would have from any of those organizations. So it's getting them into nature and letting them experience probably something different than they would in their day-to-day, but also catering to the convenience of, having a bathroom on site, having these luxury clubhouses, having a general store, having full audio visual rooms, if they need to do presentations, our event space at the Catskills, floor to ceiling windows overlooking the forest, yet still there's full air conditioning and Wi-Fi and, TV setups for streaming. So it's really a nice mix of, if you need to have a serious corporate meeting, but then also let your employees kind of play around and experience the property after that. In regards to other partnerships, we're working with a bunch of automobile brands, private aviation. We have a big retail component that we're focused on for 2025 to collaborate with different retail partners that we could sell in our store for co-branded products. But it has been important to kind of get our brand out there in front of new guests.
Yeah, I love that, especially with the lifestyle adjacencies with, like you mentioned, like nature and even the corporate tech. Everybody wants to fancy themselves as an outdoorsman in that space. The whole Patagonia vest being the new flagship activewear of the tech community and finance and stuff like that. But I was curious, from going through your resume and the research, you've had amazing roles and focused on launching properties and experiences, but mainly within an urban environment. You'd mentioned some of the locales, Miami, Los Angeles, New York, but then even internationally in places like Dubai and other words. Was it any type of a learning curve for you to reorient yourself around these destination locations that were tied to more natural environments or locations? I know you and I spoke a little bit before we hit the play button on the show, and you mentioned that you are going to Yosemite a little bit for work and a little bit for pleasure. So I guess that's a two-part question. Are you an outdoor enthusiast yourself, in addition to the work that you've been doing from a career perspective in more urban environments in the hospitality space?
Definitely. So I'll answer the first question. So in terms of kind of the products or the properties that I've been working with for my entire career with kind of larger, more urban markets, I think the strategy isn't that difficult because I understand feeder markets, I understand guest patterns, and seasonality. That's really the same at Autocamp, right? So for Joshua Tree, we're pulling from people that live in Los Angeles, we're pulling from people that live in San Diego. So just kind of understanding those high times and seasonality is super important. I opened a bunch of hotels in New York City. Well, what do people in New York City love to do? Get out of New York City. And for that reason, the Catskills location is just a no-brainer. Like I said, it's 2 hours away from Manhattan. So anytime we do any sort of promotion for people to get out of Manhattan and get into nature, it's a quick sell.
Wow.
Cape Cod the same way, right? Like there's a lot of people that live in Boston. They're always looking to go to the Cape. The Autocamp Cape Cod is a great answer to that. It's a nice, quick little long weekend getaway, has all the conveniences that you want, but you're in nature with fresh air right next to the ocean. So it hasn't been that much of a learning curve in that regard. However, I will say the one thing that I have needed to kind of get my head around is the natural disasters. Like that's nothing that I haven't really had to deal with. So, it is scary when you have a hurricane compromising a property. It is scary when there's a fire, most recently in Yosemite, a few miles away from our property, and you're having to displace guests and really worry about the employees on property as well. Those things are very real and something that we need to be aware of, and affects, right? Like inventory affects guest patterns, because it's different than, we lost power for a night. Once people hear about there's a fire at Yosemite, then it's the perception of like, it's going to be smoky, it's going to be ashy. I don't want to go there for the next, few days because of that reason. So it's getting used to that and really being a bit more proactive when we know things are happening. I'm trying to think of another example. There's a big storm in Asheville. We're about to open our Asheville location. Big storm. Unfortunately, there were a few trees that came down during that storm. Again, thank God that our property was empty and no one was hurt, no one was around. But the big storm took out a few of our airstreams that we need to get fully refurbished, and that just delays the opening a little bit. So it's just being more aware and privy to kind of Mother Earth and nature and what's going on, especially with the climate these days. Your second question, I think this role came at a really appropriate time. I've lived in big cities. I've traveled my entire life for work. Really just grinding for a long time. And not that this grind is any different, but it's a lot easier to grind when you're in nature and after your meetings and your calls are done at 6 p.m. The fact that you can go on a nature walk and be in the middle of the forest in 3 minutes is a very nice dynamic to the day. And it's just been really important for me just to kind of be able to have that balance in my day-to-day work.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is your time split between being home and out at the properties? So getting to, actually experience what the guests are experiencing.
Right now I'd say it's 50-50, to be honest. I mean, I also love our properties, right? Prior to this, I had been to Martha's Vineyard and I'd been to Nantucket, but I had never been to the specific location, Falmouth, where our property is in Boston. I'd been to Hudson, New York, but I'd never necessarily been to Autocamp Catskills. So it's really familiarizing myself with the specific properties that we have out there. And also, I think it's really, really important to spend the time now, as I am within my first year, to understand the operators and what the operators are seeing in the field. They are a direct guest touch point. We understand there's guest surveys and you get feedback upon checkout and all that stuff, but there's nothing more actionable than what a GM has to tell me when I'm on their property. Whether it's, hey, this room type, we need to rethink that, or maybe we should offer foam rollers in the Airstream for those adventurous that have, been rock climbing all day, or maybe we should do a collaboration with a local wellness facility to offer massages at the end of a long hike. Things like that are really valuable feedback. So I like spending time in the field and getting to speak to the operations team there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things that I noticed from doing the research on your background, especially with SLL, with concepts like Katsuya, you were a big proponent and probably early to the trend of bringing the community into the marketing of the properties and some of the restaurant concepts that you were promoting, giving maybe an equal focus on marketing to the neighborhood versus just the folks that were coming in from a destination perspective.
Yeah.
How have you been able to implement that with Autocamp, maybe being out a little bit detached from the community in these remote locations?
I would actually argue that the community in these remote locations are even more important.
Cool.
Are smaller communities, right? So the towns or smaller cities that we're going into, people are very, very aware of a new construction project in their backyard. Much different than they would be if you were in LA or New York, right? There's a new building going up every day in LA. People just aren't that aware, nor do they really care as much as what it is like they do in these secondary, tertiary towns. And I think for that reason, it's getting ahead of it, meeting with the community, doing hard hat tours, doing sneak peeks, really being very transparent in terms of our conservation, our sustainability, our recycle programs, what we're doing with water waste. I mean, we are meticulous to make sure that the environments that we're going into, we're really being thoughtful and respectful. We're also hiring locally, so we're bringing jobs to the local market, which is really important. We're doing kind of educational things before the property opens to make sure that people understand the type of property this is. This isn't going to be this loud nightclub, late night whatsoever. It's a hospitality concept where it's really focused around people getting into nature and appreciating the nature where these communities are. So For that reason, it's been incredibly important. We try to align ourselves with the local philanthropic organization at any place that we are. So that's not only a financial commitment, but it's also, inviting, whether it's the Joshua Tree Conservancy, into the property to do some education about nature walks, the type of animals that you may see along the road or along the hike. Like, it's important to keep that partnership alive so that the communities feel like we are giving back to them as much as they're giving to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's not only a marketing concept from getting the local community to either apply for jobs or do partnerships or come to the properties themselves, but as much, or it sounds like maybe even more importantly, it's the weighting of your stewardship as a corporate responsible entity that's going to come in and not create chaos for these communities, and the sustainability goals and the philanthropic goals as well.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we're incredibly respectful. We are, developing a piece of nature. So for that reason, we're making sure that everything that we're doing is really up to code, up to standard. We're incredibly sustainable in our design, which is important.
I love that. So who exactly is your target audience, and what are the most effective channels to message to them?
So it's interesting. I mean, I hate I hate how everyone references COVID, but I feel like in hospitality, we're always going to reference COVID as a learning point within the industry. I say that because the demographic of traveler at Autocamp during that time, I mean, everyone was looking to stay at Autocamp, right? Because it was out of the city, into nature, fresh air, away from a lot of people. That's just where people wanted to be. Now that we're kind of into the next phase of demographic and next phase of travel, people are really excited to get into nature. I would say that the target demo is the millennial generation who has, the zest to be outside, but they want the convenience and the comfort of home, which is why this glamping concept works so well with them. In the future, we really want to focus on the baby boomer generation as well, the people that may be empty nesters now and have always wanted to go to Yosemite, but have never really been able to do so. I think that's a big generation that we need to really approach through campaigns via AAA. We have other different partners that we're working with, even baby boomer influencers, right? Like, there's a whole category on Facebook and on Instagram of a bit of an older generation that now they have the means and the time and the zest to get out there and to travel. And we provide a really safe, approachable environment for them to do so. We're also fully ADA compliant. So, let's say there is a mobility concern with one of our guests, like, we're fully able to accommodate that. And whether you want to have an incredibly adventurous stay and, canyoning in Zion, or if you just want to do a light nature walk and kind of listen to the forest sounds, like, we can deliver that experience to any type of individual on property.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, you mentioned COVID travel, flourish, but or parts of how COVID changed the way that people wanted to vacation.
Yeah.
I know you and I talked a little bit. I became one of those, RV people during COVID, and I'm probably square on the target. Like, this is pretty much the only type of travel that I try and do, whether I'm in my RV or traveling internationally. I'm always looking to build a road trip on and, stay in a castle in the middle of nowhere in France or things like that. So I'm excited because, frankly, I wasn't aware of the brand until I did see the post on Hilton. So I'm surprised about that, but I'm very excited to become familiar with it as a consumer. But one of the things that we noticed in COVID as well was this explosion in outdoor sports and just the outdoor industry in general. I think it grew like something by 250%. Like all COVID bumps, it has come back to a level of normalization now, but it definitely did change trends around not only the way that people like to travel and the types of experiences that they want to do or they want to get from their hospitality or vacations, or even, like you mentioned before, in business travel, but also the things that they want to do and spend their time while they're away from the property, such as hiking, biking, kayaking, all hunting, fishing, all that stuff. So how have you guys matched to kind of the explosion in interest around outdoor activities, and how do you kind of tie into both the lifestyle and the activity and interest in addition to the where people are staying?
Yeah, so our local property teams do a really incredible job of outreach to these kind of more adventurous companies, right? So we work with third-party operators, whether it's skydiving, whitewater rafting, horseback riding. We really tap into it all. We do have the luxury in being in these environments where a lot of this adventure sport is offered. But we want to make sure that those partners are vetted, they're preferred. We're also providing our guest a negotiated discount or rate for any of those types of things. So it's another benefit of staying through Autocamp, where it's, hey, come stay with us. We'll set you up with a full itinerary with partners that we know are reputable. They carry the insurance needed for these types of activities. But we list that all of the experiences on our website for each location. And again, they go from, like I said, very, very approachable. We have floral arrangement classes for those people that just kind of want to like sit in nature and be calm, but do a little something special for themselves, to full canyoning and, getting an instructor guide 4-hour tour in the middle of Zion and going through the Narrows. Like we offer a lot at each location. And I think that's what's special too. That's why people really, once they stay at one location, they get excited about the next one. And that's why we have so much interest around these next two locations that are about to open, because people just know that they're going to be not only thoughtfully designed and really incredible locations, but also the programming that matches the experience will be thoughtful as well.
That's awesome. So in prior roles in launching restaurant concepts and nightclubs, especially, you're a bit of a master in the working with celebrity chefs and building concepts in and around personalities.
Yeah.
You mentioned also a little bit of your strategy with influencer marketing and this kind of growing demographic of the baby boomer influencer. My prior agency, we wrote a blog post called "The Grandfluencer" that went viral. So we have quite a bit of experience working with that demographic and that type of influencer. Although I think you branded them more appropriately than I did. I don't think they want to be known as grand influencers. Probably the baby boomer title is probably more apropos, but. Just kind of curious on, are you leveraging that idea of the celebrity personality driven brand to brand any of the properties from a culinary perspective, or bringing in kind of that, maybe even as pop-up experiences and stuff like that?
Not necessarily. I think the reason people come stay with us is because, we are remote. We're not in these city centers. We don't have a lot of fanfare around guests that are staying with us. We do get a lot of famous people that stay at our Autocamp locations for that very reason. I mean, Joshua Tree alone gets a lot of people that will just go out there for a really reclusive stay. Staff doesn't bother them. Guests don't bother them, because everyone is there for the same reason. They're not there to be seen. They're there to see nature and have an experience and have a little bit of wellness getaway. So that hasn't been part of our strategy as it relates to food and beverage. That's a secondary piece to the hospitality product. I mean, we provide breakfast. We have great granola, amazing coffee in the morning. We have muffins and bagels and all those things. But, you're not going there for this 5-course meal. You're going there for the experience around the campfire. And what we've been able to do actually is really fun. Every location has their individual, every Airstream or cabin location has an individual grill. And in the stores, we have food that you can actually buy and prepare yourself. So we have these meals for two, whether it's a filet with all the sides or if it's cedar plank salmon. And it really provides another element to the whole experience, where not only are you staying in an Airstream, but you're also like making and grilling your own dinner, which is reasonably priced. But there's something also really special about that too, right? It's, again, coming around the community campfire. It's like, making your food, grilling your food. You don't have to go far to get it. You go to the store, you pick out your grill kit for two, you take it back, you listen to the live music that's happening on property, you stargaze, and you just enjoy being in nature. I mean, I don't think aligning with a celebrity chef is anything that we would do in the immediate future. However, when it comes to pop-ups, I do think there are some opportunities for, bringing in chefs for like open flame series or something like that they're doing special at our properties. We do have an oyster shucking experience in Cape Cod, not a celebrity chef, but a really cool, very food and beverage driven experience. But it's not that we're having a celebrity chef come do it. We're actually teaching the guests how to do it themselves, which I think is even more special.
Yeah, I could see like farm to table foraging trips or something like that in the future. That would be really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, are there any upcoming marketing initiatives that you want to make the listeners and the audience aware of? It sounds like you're working on a lot of really cool things, but what are some major focuses in your marketing calendar this year?
Yeah, we're really excited actually about a new promotion that we're about to launch in the next few weeks, and I'd say the beginning of August. We realize that the economy is where it is. Prices are higher. Travel is more expensive. For that reason, we're kind of taking a different approach where, a vacation into nature shouldn't be expensive. It should be affordable. We're coming up with this whole idea about affordable adventure. So we've taken a look at a lot of our rates across all of our properties, and we want to make sure that, people are actually able to go on vacation and have this experience and get out into nature at a price that, is really approachable. So we're excited about launching that in the next few weeks. We have, some pretty attractive rate driven offers, aside from getting away from the upcharge that I think a lot of the other, I hate to say like other luxury or big box brands typically try to do with adding on Wi-Fi and adding on parking and adding on all this other stuff. It's, we want people
$20 peanuts in the room, stuff like that.
We want people to come and experience what Autocamp has to offer at a really approachable rate, because we want them to come back, have a great experience, tell people, it shouldn't be about spending so much just to get into nature. Nature should be affordable, especially with our national parks. I mean, that's the whole narrative there. It shouldn't matter how much you make. Everyone should be able to afford a trip like this. So that's the big campaign that we're working on the next few weeks.
I love it. So this might be hard for you to answer, but what is your favorite Autocamp location? And then also, what is your favorite itinerary? They don't have to be at the same locations if you want to pick different ones.
That is a tough one. I have to say Cape Cod is really special.
Nice.
For that reason, like I said, it is just, under 2 hours away from the Boston airport. So you can land in Boston, get a car and head on out there. Cape Cod as an area, or Falmouth is the town. It's really charming. It's really quaint, but also our property, like I said, there are ocean views. There are cabins that overlook the ocean. It's very serene when you arrive on property and kind of look out over the lawns and the communal fire pit space. But it's just, there's this incredible bike path that the property backs up to that kind of takes you along the coast. And we have bike rentals right on property that, you just get in. What I did last time, I got in, checked in, set my bags down and jumped on a bike and rode my bike for probably 2 hours up and down the coast of Cape Cod, which was really, really fun, really special. And it's just a great property, and the team there is awesome. I also really like Joshua Tree. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so Joshua Tree is a place that I tend to go to often. And the design of that clubhouse and just the setting of the mountains behind that property is really special, especially at dusk. And getting into the park is really easy, and there's just fun things to do and see around Joshua Tree. So I think those are kind of two of my favorites. I'll let you know though after my Yosemite trip next weekend
Nice.
if I
Well,
want to change my answer.
that's a good curation for the West Coast, East Coast contingent. They can both, equally take advantage of your recommendation there, which I like.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, this has been super exciting. So my last question with all my guests is, what are you most excited about the future with your role as CMO and leading the marketing at Autocamp? What's got you excited about the future of your space and your brand?
Yeah, I think that is it. There is a big white space for this type of product
Mm-hmm.
in hospitality. I think there's a lot of people that love to go to Europe and can afford to go stay at these luxury hotels, but everyone's chasing this experience, right? And this type of experience or this type of hospitality at Autocamp, like I said, when I first visited the Joshua Tree location, like you get on the property and it is an experience. So I'm just excited about the opportunity to open more locations in the coming years, to get new people introduced to the brand, and also, really get Gen Z excited about this property as well, or these properties as well. I think there's this whole component about kind of screen time and people wanting to get off of social media and put down the screens and stop watching TV. And, people are just getting saturated by marketing messaging. And so for that reason, I think a stay out in nature is exactly what people are going to look for and yearn for in the coming few years. I think that's exciting to be able to deliver that and offer that to people, and again as a reasonable rate.
Yeah, I love that. That's when I used to work on the Hinge dating app. Our marketing campaign was, we want you to delete our app, right? So.
Yeah.
The idea of getting off of marketing channels and getting outdoors, I definitely integrated into my lifestyle. I'm very excited that I learned about your brand. I'll definitely be on the lookout for it. And most especially for Joshua Tree, that's a favorite location of mine to go camping. I'll probably wait till the season is, the summer is over. As you know, it gets a little bit hot out there this time of year, but I'm very excited to experience the brand myself. So, Bryan, well, hey, thanks so much for coming on the show. I think our audience has learned a lot about hospitality marketing and how it's kind of intersecting with this amazing yearning that people have to connect with the outdoors and be part of outdoors experiences. I think you're the right guy to do it and the right guy to lead this brand based on your background and resume. So thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights. Anywhere you want to point people if they want to get in touch with you and or experience the brand themselves.
Autocamp.com is the website, and it's at Autocamp on Instagram. And yeah, it's I'm really excited about the future of the brand, especially these new locations in Sequoia and Asheville that are opening. That'll just get us in front of a whole different type of demographic, different parts of the country as well. And then looking forward to some new developments in the future that, again, we can't talk about, but excited to when we can.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Appreciate definitely. It. Well, I'm excited to see what you do. Hey, for those of you who are following along at home, if you are not a subscriber of the podcast, wherever you are watching or listening today, go ahead and hit that subscribe or like button, and that will allow you to tune into future episodes. And if you would be so kind as to give us a review, if you found the show insightful or interesting, that helps us find an organic audience more naturally. And most importantly, if there's somebody in your network, a professional in the hospitality industry, or someone who just needs to hear my conversation with Bryan today about how to be a great marketer in the luxury space, I would definitely encourage you to share the show. So with that being said, Bryan, thanks so much again for coming on, man.